Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. All right, so this episode is going to be a tad bit technical, but hear me out. I'm going to explain to you how you can figure out what to pay yourself as an S corporation owner like a third grader could understand it. I promise you. Stick with me on this. If you are a shareholder in an S corporation, now I've done several episodes on this. I've done several different takes on this as a part of S Corp series, as a part of explaining what the S Corp is. If you want more content on that, let me know. But today I'm just going to zoom all the way in on this reasonable salary thing. And I'm going to tell you what I mean. So just to give you a little bit of the why behind this episode, there is a requirement that if you are an owner in an S corporation, you are required to pay yourself a reasonable salary through payroll over the course of the year. Okay? That's the rule. That's what you're supposed to do. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no option. That this is required. Here's the kicker. The IRS, who's enforcing this rule, doesn't tell you what reasonable means. Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. So we don't know what reasonable means. So then how do we know what a reasonable salary is? Okay. There are different tools at our disposal. There are different things you can use to come up with the reasonable salary. And luckily, coming from me, I've been in audits before where I've had to prove this. And my support has held up in an audit. So I'm going to share how we approach it with you. And I would strongly recommend that you have some type of process that you use to figure out your reasonable salary as an S Corp owner. So here's what you have to consider. Okay, so we actually do this analysis and it's not that complicated, I promise you. It's mostly about documenting the stuff you already know about what you do and putting it down on paper or in a spreadsheet like we do or a Google Doc and just writing this down. So let's start with we look at the internal and we look at the external. The reasonable salary is supposed to be what you would pay yourself if you replaced your role in the business. And I'm being particularly careful with the wording there. So like when we talk about in the business, on the business, in the business is like as the technician. So the doer of things. So for me, it would be my salary as an accountant or as a CFO, not as a executive business owner, CEO of my business, but as the thing that I do, the trade that I have mastered. So whatever it is you're doing in the business, you're going to be paid as an employee. So the salary that you pay yourself is going to correspond to the in the business work. And then you're going to take profit distributions like you did when you had an LLC and you took out owner's draws and you just transferred money from the business to the personal account. That's called profit distributions. And you're going to take that out. And that's basically your pay for being the owner of the business. Okay. So I'm paid as like an employee and as like an owner because I have two roles. I'm the in the business and the on the business. Got it. Okay. But then like, why does the IRS make us do this? Like, how does this all work? Well, here's the fun part. The reasonable salary, you as the owner, you want your reasonable salary to be as low as possible because every dollar that gets paid to you through that salary way is taxed a little higher. Because payroll taxes of 15.3% are attached to the payroll. They are not attached to the distributions when you're an S Corp. So it's in your best interest that more dollars go out the distribution door than out the salary door. You're with me? So you want to go out the door that doesn't have the guy charging you extra money. You want to go in the back door of the club, not the guy with the bouncer taking the cover charge. Right? So like avoid that. But here's the thing, you can't fully avoid it. You can't pay yourself zero salary because that's not reasonable. So then how do we figure this out? Okay, here's how the IRS wants you to do it. Now, if you were a kid, I think I've told you the story before, but if you haven't heard this from me yet, it's the best way I can explain it. If you were a kid, this happened to me. So if y'all cannot relate, I'm sorry, but this 100% happened to me. When I was a little kid, I knew there were like Oreos in the closet, and I'd be like, Mom, I'm hungry. I want a cookie. And she'd be like, Shan, if you're hungry, there's carrot sticks in a bag in the deli door. Go eat those. I'm like, no, like I want a cookie. And she's like, are you hungry? I say, yeah. She's like, if you're hungry, eat the carrots. If you're hungry, eat the vegetables. If you're hungry, eat the insert healthy food here. And I was like, oh no, I don't want that though. I want the cookies. Okay. So you just want cookies. So bear with me with this analogy because this is exactly what the IRS is doing to you. You're like, I want distributions. I need money. I'm taking it out through a distribution. I need to take cash out of my business. I got to pay for shit. I got to pay for my rent. I got to pay for my, my mortgage. I got to pay for childcare. I got to pay for whatever. I need money. So I got to take it out. Okay. The IRS would say, well, if you need money, run a payroll. I don't want to run a payroll. I just want to take out the profit distribution. It's less taxes. And they're like, okay, listen, you can do that. You can have as many cookies as you want to. Just eat the damn carrots first. If you're hungry, if you want money, if you need cash out of your business, eat the carrots out of the bag first. Then you can have all the cookies you want if you're still hungry. Bear with me on this. Think about this mentality. Eat all the carrots first, then you can have all the cookies you want. The IRS wants you to pay yourself your reasonable salary. Then you can take out distributions at your leisure. You can take out distributions as much as you really want. Now, within a certain limit, not going to go into that, like within reason, but if you're going to be taking money out of your business, then focus on, did I pay myself my reasonable salary yet? And then take out distributions. Or maybe you have your reasonable salary programmed to go out through the course of the year, like on autopilot or on a monthly basis. In that case, let that be programmed. Know that you're going to pay that by the end of the year and take distributions out in between. It's okay. The order of events doesn't have to matter. As long as you finish the whole bag of carrots by December 31st, you're fine. Eat as many Oreos in between as you want to. Got it? Cool. So how do we actually figure out how much this is supposed to be? Well, internal and external factors. I told you that it's supposed to be you're in the business work. Okay. So we look at internal and external factors. External factors are like go on job boards, go find out, figure out what job you actually do. If you had to hire another you in your business to do the stuff that is very tactical and very hands-on, what would that person do? What would you call that person? What would be the job title? And then look in your geographic area, look at different, experience levels, look at how experienced you are, go to the market and find comparable jobs and what they're paying. Okay, so that's step one. And if you're going to do that, here's my expert tip for you. When you document those job postings, do not just use hyperlinks in your document. Why? Because when you go to that hyperlink 2 years from now when you get audited, we don't know what's going to be there. We don't know if it's going to be 404 not found. So instead of just using the link to support it, take a little screenshot of what you see and show the salary that you see and show a timestamp or whatever. Like you want to prove that I went on the computer on this day and this is what it said because stuff changes so frequently. Anyway, you're using the external factors. You're going to be looking at job postings and then you're going to flip the script and go internal and say, okay, how much time do I spend on this activity? How much time do I spend in versus on the business? I'm 2/3 in the business, 1/3 on the business, let's say. So I'm going to take that salary that I figure out and go, this is pretty reasonable for somebody in my profession with my experience to get paid for me, like as an accountant, let's say. And I say, okay, salary is like $100,000, but I spend 2/3 of my time as the accountant. So that would bring me down to like $67,000 if I apply 2/3 to that salary for the whole year. You follow? So if I go, okay, that's like 67. And, considering other factors that aren't really clear in those job postings and considering kind of a blend of the averages and my geographic area and my experience level, blah, 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 like maybe I'll round it to 70 or a 75. Maybe that feels good. That feels like a good range. Then you can say, okay, let's just say it's 70. I feel good that I can support a $70,000 salary. Because here's the thing, you don't want to just inflate it. You don't want to round up. You want to round down as much as possible. If you can arrange, all of your support to support like a 65,000, cool, go for it. I'm just using this as an example where if I land on like 70 grand after doing all my research, I'm going to try to support why that's the case through documentation. And then that's all you really need to do is to support that with the documentation. The IRS at any point can come back to you and say, "Hey, Shan, I see that you're paying yourself about 70,000. We really think you should pay yourself more. Accountants like you with 15 years of experience are getting paid way higher than that." And I go, "I don't disagree, but this is how much time I spend in my business versus on. Look, here's some of my time cards of examples of, an average week in the life. Here's an example of my calendar. You can see it's color coded on versus in time. You can actually see that, most of my time is spent on the business and I'm really just operating on client work a very small portion of the time now." So think about how you could support claims like that. Think about how you could support why your salary should be lower. And you can get away with having less carrots in the bag that you have to eat. That's my favorite way to explain it because it makes total sense when you think about like how you felt as a kid. And when you're coming up with that reasonable salary, more important than anything is your documentation. If you can support how you came up with your number, chances are you're going to succeed in an audit inherently because the IRS also has no guidance to follow with what is reasonable. So it's your word versus theirs on what is quote unquote reasonable. So if you come to the table and you say, "Here's what I've deemed reasonable, and here's all of my evidence to back up why I came up with this." I mean, they like one audit I was in, they were like, "Touche." I mean, not literally, but they basically said, "Okay, you have a decent amount of evidence here, and you've really put in your homework to determine what the salary should be." And what they ended up doing was they said, "Listen, I get what you did, Shan. You wanted to claim, 70,000 for your salary." I'm just using this as an example. This was the client, but they said, "You want to claim 70 grand for your salary. We think it should be 85." I say, "Okay, can we meet in the middle at like 75 or whatever, 78?" And they might say, "Deal." Okay. And then the worst thing that happens, guys, the worst thing that happens is that they make you change it and they make you pay those extra payroll taxes. Boo hoo. But they're less likely to charge you way more if you can support an anchor point, a really strong anchor to where you want to plant your foot in the ground and say, "No, it should be this amount of salary." So the clearer you can be, the better off you're going to be. Okay. And it's really important that you do not have a zero on your tax return for that owner's compensation. You want to make sure that you've done the work and you have it well documented. I can't emphasize that enough. Even if you think you know what your salary should be and you're like, "It's $80,000. I'd say, "Cool. Where did you get that from?" And if you say, "I don't know, it just feels right," nope, not going to happen. It's not going to hold up. So I will challenge you. We are just coming out of business tax time. We're heading into personal. If you currently, for 2024, don't feel super secure about your S Corp reasonable salary and you want to go through this exercise, I actually have a free resource for you. It's called the S Corp Success Plan. And you go to scorpsuccess.com and you can actually download for free my reasonable compensation mini course with my questionnaire on if an S Corp's right for you, along with how to run payroll. Like we go through everything. If you have an S Corp and no one's ever explained this stuff to you, which is ridiculous, by the way, that CPAs are doing that, but we have a resource for you. If you have an S corporation, but no one has explained to you how to remain compliant and what your responsibilities are, we got you. Go to scorpsuccess.com. Go check out this resource. It's completely free. I used to sell this for $2,000. Okay. It used to accompany my S Corp implementation service. So if you are interested in that, head over to scorpsuccess.com, go download it, and make sure if you want to implement an S corporation for 2024, we have passed the original deadline, but you can still file a late election and it's still within a reasonable period of time to argue why it's late. Perhaps you just learned about this from me and you want to go file it. If you're interested, again, scorpsuccess.com, go take the questionnaire to see if it's a good fit for you. Go learn about the S corporation and what it can do for you, how to do reasonable salary and all of those things. One of the best decisions I made in business that saved me countless headaches was getting expert advice in HR as I started growing my team. With so many compliance requirements, especially for virtual businesses, I could never get caught up on everything I needed to learn or I was supposed to do. That's where Jackie and her team at People Principles came in with their signature HR audit for only $349. But get this, if you use code Shannon50, you get $50 off of that. So it's only $300. You'll have peace of mind by the end of the week with this exclusive offer as a Keep What You Earn listener. Here's what's included: a step-by-step self-assessment, a 60-minute strategy session with their HR experts to ensure that you're in compliance and you have a plan for getting on track, an HR template to keep all this important stuff in one place, and a roadmap of the top 3 best practices to implement right now in the next 6 to 12 months. Again, use code Shannon50 to take $50 off of this assessment. Do not miss out on this opportunity or let unintentional HR mistakes derail your business growth. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.